Oi, oi, it's your boy with another day, another demo. I don't even know where I'm going with this one, but hopefully you guys can forgive me for whatever I just did, as we're just going to get right into this one. This is just a demo review for syrsoN, who had probably the best T-side opping game I have seen in a long time. So, as you guys can see from the stats, he just destroyed NiP, integral to the success that they had on the terrorist side. And we're going to see how he gets his op involved, because it's not every day that you see an op actually succeed on the offensive here on Vertigo. And you'll see a couple tricks that he has up his sleeves. And we'll start with the pistol round, as we do, because we do full demo reviews on this channel. So here we see that they are going for a 4-man A-ramp walk push. They do make a little bit of noise, and you can tell that it's intentional, actually. They do a double nade stack there towards sandbags, and then they actually back up. You can see that big there at around, 128 or so, just make noise on purpose. And for NiP, that just gives them sound cues that they can't really do a lot with. It just adds to kind of the clutter, the confusion of the round. And then actually what we see from Big is that it's going to be a fake as they make their way on to the B-bomb site, and everybody from NiP has rotated. There's actually not even a single soul here, although Plopsky is on the flank, but now they're in a 3-on-4. And I want you guys to just look very briefly at the setup that Keto and syrsoN are using and how they are able to play off of each other, how syrsoN is covering the right side, Keto is covering the left side, and both of these players can play around the generator here in order to actually have a really nice setup in the late round situation. And it's just, having these little things outlined is very nice in terms of just how hard this is for NiP to get into this round. There's 2 players around a box that is pretty tough to clear, There's nothing you can really do about it. And so that really is why they are able to win that post plant. It's not just playing back on the site, playing really standard crossfires. It's actually kind of switching things up for them there. So we'll see a little bit of utility towards middle, triple nade toward construction, and then Big just doing a really good job until I say that in terms of getting this space. I actually am not sure 100% if that smoke is intentional or not, because it does look like they were kind of thinking about going for a B play anyways, or going for an A play anyways, but I think that might have just been a split-second decision from syrsoN. Either way, it works, and they're able to convert this one. So, has the deagle. Still just going to play towards heaven here. And for the sake of clarification for the rest of this game, and for maybe your guys' comms in the future, I'll show you guys what I call certain spots on this map, as he's now just defending here, takes a little bit of a jiggle from heaven, and then the round is pretty much over at this point. Doesn't end up hunting Plopsky, but I will call this headshot. This is default on the site, and this is heaven, and then this is maze. This little connector here is just maze between these two. And the reason this isn't called connector is because this is called connector. So that's at least how I hear it called in my previous teams and things. I feel like those spots don't really get consistent names on broadcasts. It's kind of, you'd rather just ignore it. But yeah. So this round, anti-eco yet again. He'll be making his way up. Oh yeah, and there's a difference between this. This is yellow or scaffolding, and then this is Ivy/short. There's a difference in that once you kind of cross over these little concrete mix bags, this is when it transfers from being scaffolding/yellow into short/Ivy. So it's pretty standard. There's not even much to talk about here. Just wanted to go over those spots with you guys, as syrsoN is just kind of throwing his body at NiP in that circumstance, but now he finally has an op. Really, there wasn't too much to say about the first 3 rounds. Just going to use those to preface what is to come in the future. As now he's just going to be going for an opening pick on the back box right here. So this is obviously really good if the player goes for any kind of peek. It actually, to me, has always looked easier to see just barely over the smoke with a single scope, and then if I double scope, it's I think it's better if you want to look for these higher areas because it's a little bit cleaner. But I noticed that syrsoN is actually doing that also. So kind of a little bit of an interesting tidbit there. But he's just looking for a pick here, not really actually getting gifted anything just yet. But he's just kind of holding the line. And you can see in this round that Big has spent 55 seconds to just secure the bottom of a ramp here, just waiting out all the utility. And now he'll be throwing a little bit of a grenade. This is a left-right click throw, and then this is a jump throw at the bottom left of that. Both, I would say the nade is a little less standard, but the smoke is very standard. And now he's going to be planning on the right side of sight. And instead of actually backing off the angle to sandbags, notice that he goes for this pick right here, because it'll be very common for a player to either peek up at headshot right here, or to peek up at heaven. And this angle does a really good job of covering both of those. So, all in all, it's a surprisingly strong position to be in for an opper, because a lot of the times you're just going to be gifted like a shoulder there, or, you know, you will see the head of the person playing headshot. But if they're jumping up sometimes, if they don't do it with perfect movement, then you actually can spot a little bit more. So it actually is not that bad of a position in a post plant. But not really too much to say again about syrsoN there. But don't worry, guys. He really pops off. It does feel kind of consistent that syrsoN has these slower rounds to start things off. But here, he's going to be holding the right side here towards Ivy. And that player right there in res is actually trying to jiggle him out. So he is being gifted some opportunities, but triple nade, although staggered, is going to go to the top of the ramp for Big, and they're just always consistently trying to make that utility damage work for them. And so now we'll see Xantarez is pushing up. syrsoN, because his teammate was approaching, was holding the angle, but once Xantarez gets close enough, he can handle it himself. And now syrsoN will just move on forward with his op. And what's interesting about this is syrsoN knows this wallbang. I don't know if you guys saw the game live, but he does actually end up finding a kill here. What's weird about it is he's not shooting right now. And this is one of those things where I feel like it's tricking us in that it looks like we can see a little gap right there, but it's actually just completely flush. So he'll throw his Molotov, they'll smoke it out, and really there's no reason for him to not take these little pop shots right here just through the bottom of the sandbags. But I think now that people know that is a problem, I don't think people should be playing sandbags as much. It was already very gimmicky because people would always molly it out. But now the fact that you can just spam the floor, you pretty much, there's no disadvantage now to pretty much going for that shot. Unless they go for an aggressive play from A and flash into you. But other than that, really, there's very few reasons why you would play that position. And now syrsoN just getting on top of the sandbags, playing with a similar height kind of that we saw when he was playing over here at the Yuri position. And then he's able to find a kill, gets 2 on the round, really nice multi-frag as it opened up the round for his team, and then he also was able to keep it going and really stop any chance of NiP finding a successful retake there. So you'll see him on ramp quite a bit here as he tries to peek now over the smoke, and it's kind of interesting that he's changing up what he's looking at. I don't really... I actually feel like the value of holding the left side is generally higher than holding towards Ivy. However, if you can be scouted out in demos consistently that you will be just holding that right side at the beginning or holding the left side, then those tendencies can play against you as teams will start to scout that out. So even though there are more angles that you probably want to clear in this section, like I'm saying, it's just you want to vary it for the sake of varying it. It's not just a feeling thing always, or it's not just a yeah. But he will finally get gifted one, and really this kind of is just Big having a standard default on this anti kind of half buy, little light buy for NiP, and so he's just holding the connector position right now, and Big, with the kills that they got, are going to just make their way towards the B site. But all in all, just really standard stuff so far. 4 kills so far in the half. And this time around, he's actually going to throw some of the early utility, and he wants to get aggressive with it. So you'll see that he gets aggressive here at the scaffolding, and then there's a flash from tabseN that sets up syrsoN there, and now he's able to just push on forward. I want to actually show you guys with a flash too, but at the same time, it's just, like, this is just crazy. Like, he just keeps on fighting up Ivy. It's not even an advantageous angle, but the fact that he has an op makes that duel weirdly favorable, because it's basically elbow versus elbow, but when he sees an elbow, that's a kill. So all in all, just really explosive round from syrsoN, showing that he is very willing to just take those early fights. Nade towards Maze, takes out Knock, and now syrsoN just keeps posting up on the angle. Really nothing else in this round for him, but Just shows that syrsoN and Big, when they basically trust that syrsoN can do things like that, there isn't a hell of a lot of setup needed to just win rounds outright. The opening pick did have setup in that obviously he threw that bank smoke, which gave him that position here so that he could basically wait for the flash from tabseN, pops out right when the flash actually comes out. But other than that, I mean, he's just doing it all by himself. And that's kind of one of the fun things about Vertigo. And I'm still very critical of this map. I think it's actually all in all I think it's not very well designed for a lot of different reasons. But I think that one thing that is kind of fun is how it feels like you're battling for inches a lot of the time. Just every extra step you take is like a new engagement, potentially. So it can be pretty fun. But we'll see here just kind of his anti-eco procedures in that he just holds the line again for Big. And really, there's just not too much new about this from what we've seen in previous rounds. But he actually does get caught out by that boost from Knock. But his team is still in a great position to clean this one up. It actually gets down to a 1v1 that Keto wins by playing an off angle. But really, just like, they're just pushing up. They're pushing up towards A. They're throwing the right nades. They're making sure that everything is pretty clean. But this is kind of syrsoN on a gun round now, saying that, okay, I was able to win a round single-handedly for my team a while ago. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to do it again. But this time, it comes back to bite him. And it's one of the couple rounds that they lose in this game. But, see, it's kind of going for a similar setup again for what he did that last time. So he throws the smoke that gives him this nice little space, pops up so that he can peek over it, but there's just too much pressure from NiP right now as Hampus flanks him, and this is kind of why you can't run the same play multiple times, that if you throw this smoke, NiP actually knows what happened in the last round, and he will give up the opening pick, because they're always going to smoke the bottom ramp here, and they know that he carved out this space for him last time around, so NiP with a really good counter procedure to just smoke the bottom of the ramp, one player just kind of flirts with him at the top, while the other person goes for the full flank behind him, so shows that NiP actually made a pretty nice adaptation, but it doesn't result in them actually winning the round. But see syrsoN now back on the op. And NiP finally just peek into him at that angle. I called that one the MSL angle because that was kind of famously the only angle MSL ever took when he was an opper on this map. I don't know why he was so privy to that angle, but it felt like 10 out of 15 rounds on CT side, he would just go for that fight alone. And so you see that it has its huge drawbacks because, I mean, if syrsoN's playing an angle like this, you're pretty much always going to win the fight against a player going for that kind of peak. Even though they might set you up with a flash, which is or a teammate could set you up with a flash. That's probably the only way you can defeat this angle as a CT opper. But syrsoN's going to take that all day. And now he's just going to keep holding on the angle. And you can see that kind of when the round slows down that he finds just more value holding the left side. Although Xantarez is posted on the right, it is just more common for CTs to go for more peaks on that left side. So now we're going to see the same jump smoke again as this lands behind the site. Molly towards sandbags, just making it absolutely certain that everything is cleared out, and then they just win the round. So nade stack towards middle here. We see a bank nade from syrsoN, although that kind of got messed up as it hit the top left of that beam. And then they're just going for a really fast mid play. It's kind of a weird call for an anti-eco, I would say, to go for a play like this. But it is rare for a CT side to actually just straight up stack towards middle on an anti-eco also. So it does make some sense. And you can see that their clearing procedures are not really super thorough and that there's a lot of 50-50 calls they have to make. Like, if a player were waiting in heaven, he would have died. If there was a player, I'm pretty sure if he went through maze, he could have died. Or, like, there's a couple angles here where he doesn't really clear them and just hopes that the person behind him goes for the trade. So you see that big in a round like this, it's kind of like when you're playing on the T side of Vertigo, you're pretty much always going to be going for a 3-1-1. Actually, the T is more like this. It's more like 3-1-1. But using an anti-eco, and this is kind of the B main area, if by keeping them honest on an anti-eco, it kind of mitigates the risk that you're actually going to lose by taking a less optimal play, but it actually keeps your opponents honest because they know now that you have the potential to go for certain plays like that. It's a really cool calling on the side of tapsN in that the theory behind why you would want to do something like that. So you see, once again, he's just going for a pick like this, and then this is just Rez not being, you know, that full primary opper status, because if he were, he would probably know that this angle is actually not as ideal as he may think it is. So you can see that where Rez is right now, and you'll see syrsoN just continues to try to hunt through these little cracks, and there we go. So Rez doesn't quite know the angles as well as maybe someone who's always on the op would, and syrsoN's able to take him down because of that. I don't know why it's a wallbang, but it is somehow. Yeah, but it's an opening pick for big, and you can just see that they're much more comfortable on this map. They let the action come to them, and they let NiP make a lot of these mistakes, and so syrsoN, really good flick there on a Hampus. Throws his same set smoke once again. This is just probably the most important smoke for taking A, because it allows you to scale on that left side and get that bomb plant down at the default triple spot. And then syrsoN this time actually decides to go for a lurk. So we saw this on Inferno a little bit yesterday, the way that he wanted to actually flank on an eco, but to do it on a gun round feels so risky. But watch the way that it cuts the rotation. He waits for the molly. Notice that the molly is still actually burning right now, and so he waits for this, knowing that as soon as when the molly is up, there is nothing for ZTR and Nock to really look at other than just the molly itself or behind them. So syrsoN knows in a situation like this, there's no reason that he should actually peek, and you could see that he was about to peek before that molly expired, but now he waits for it, it fades, and now he knows that's just going to be free. Just perfect timing by syrsoN there. Just overall, just the right amount of patience you would want to see from a player such as him. And then Keto with a really good support flash, actually, that came in from, I think, over here roughly, banks it off that. And there's just nothing that Nock could do at that point in time. So just good patience in that he waits for the first piece of utility to fade, so he gets a freebie from behind, and then also there's no chance of Nock winning that 3v1 because syrsoN is just dancing with him that entire time. He goes for the one shot to pressure Nock, and then he just keeps on dancing until Keto throws that flash. Then it's a absolutely free kill, unless he hits a blind shot, which actually felt possible, but overall, it's just too much pressure for Nock. And so now we see a syrsoN again, just holding these angles. Now he's holding the right side this time around. So, you know, there's a case. Okay, the flash comes in and he dies, actually. There is a case to hold, like, the right side, depending on the team you play also. So if he actually also knew that NiP goes for certain types of peaks on certain types of rounds, then you know, that could also maximize the value in holding the right versus the left. But on normal gun rounds, you will see more times than not the CTs peak from the left before they peak from the right. It's varied though, and it needs to stay varied. But the fact that there's two angles means that the CTs a lot of the time want to use that advantage. The fact that they can peek low, can peek high, and it's actually it's very possible to flash for people peeking from those angles too. So syrsoN going for that same kind of peek again. But again, NiP actually making a really nice proactive play. They flash right through the smoke. syrsoN still able to find one in return throughout the confusion there. And then now he's just going to hold for it again. NiP are in a 3-on-3, but they have two ops. It seems a little bit less likely that they would be going for any kind of peek here, but I don't think Big necessarily know that. But that smoke should allow Big to understand what is going on just a little bit. But that flat, I mean, there's just so much pressure now. And this is a round where NiP kind of throw out the rules a little bit. They go for just some more aggressive plays because nothing's working for them. So being a little bit random actually makes a little bit of sense. Really nice shot by syrsoN there as Plopsky is on the flank. And that's the value in keeping your deagle out and instead of keeping your knife out. You'll see that a lot of pros in late round situations do keep a pistol out, especially if it's an upgraded one at that. Usually if it's a Glock, they just said, screw it, I'm not going to win that anyways. But he doesn't hit the last eagle shot. But all in all, just a really solid T-side from syrsoN there. 18 kills, and those felt so, like, some of them felt so simple because he just lets the game come to him over and over again. I think the most kind of characteristic plays that syrsoN made that were interesting were the ones where in a post plant he would jump up onto the Yuri position, this little railing on the side, and then also jumping up onto the sandbags and also finding the wall bang through here at the bottom. But other than that, you could see that Big's style on Vertigo is pretty similar to a lot of teams on Vertigo in that they take their time at ramp, but they did actually have a couple of plays in, especially the one where he throws the little lurk smoke out the bottom, the one that segments this area off, and then it's when he's crouched, he can't be seen, but once he stands with a flash or just kind of gets up onto the ramp a little bit or jumps up, he can peek over it, and that was a nice little setup. But as soon as they do it once, then Big or NiP know how to adapt off of it. And in the future, what you can expect teams to do now is if they see that lurk smoke coming out of NiP or from Big, they can actually just spam the bottom right of the smoke, just kind of make your crosshair flush with the bottom of this area right here, and you would probably just get a free kill on a syrsoN. So that's probably a way that people will try to anti-strat syrsoN in the future, or Big if they don't update their playbook. So, all in all, it never looks too crazy for syrsoN. It really doesn't on the T side. Maybe, I'd say the most interesting one was when he pushed on the Ivy side on top of that, but really, like, it's what a lot of operas have to do here. He just hits every shot. I think that's the key takeaway, is that if he hits every shot, it's really impactful. Obviously, there was great positioning and setup and things too, which I just explained. But a little bit of a mid-fight from Big, which is kind of atypical, but really good peaks from NiP actually here as they catch him. I actually am going to be going to Tizzy in here a little bit late, but he was actually able to recover this one pretty nicely. And all in all, just Big are able to clean this whole game up. I always show the full demos, so we're just going to continue with it. But really, there's just, like, not a hell of a lot. Like, if you guys turn it off now, I wouldn't hold it against you. But, you know what? A lot of people, back when I made these more consistently, said they liked just when the whole thing was there. They didn't actually even want me to edit these. And you know what? I think there's a place for that, so we're going to just do it. syrsoN, though, starts towards middle, nades towards the bottom of B to try to find a little bit of damage, and his teammates actually have lost a pick here, so he needs to actually be, he thinks he needs to be a little bit proactive, so he just plays behind the default boxes here, and he just crouches, which is, weirdly enough, very difficult for Hampus to deal with, but Keto's already on the flank, and actually there's a double flank from him and tabseN, so this is just really too easy for Big at this point, as Rez just never sees this coming. And here we go. Final round. syrsoN actually does a little bit more work here. Moves to the short side. Every single round, actually, he's been starting in somewhat different setups. Nade down towards the right side. And this is just the nature of a lot of Vertigo games. This is genuinely why this map is frequently not that fun to cover. Because the logic behind just throwing nades through smoke or shooting through smoke is always going to be random. It never feels like there's a certain level of conditioning that goes into the ideas in some of the utility in the early engagements there. It's just a flurry of utility, and it's not even like a big enough space with enough kind of nuance with different angles or things like that, that certain utility feels significantly like, oh, rock, paper, scissors or anything like that. Like this beats this beats this. It's just a cluster heck of utility flying in this area. And we'll see syrsoN get a nice jumping kill to end things off. Insult to injury as he's able to take down NiP. I feel like this game was a little bit strange, honestly, in how easy it looked for Big in some respects. But it's kind of just what happens when you have a new player in ZTR. And I know I showed you guys the strengths of ZTR, but we can also see, if you pay attention to the other games, some of the drawbacks of having a new player like this. He hasn't been integrated yet into the system for NiP. You can see that on these stats as well, that just not a lot of contribution from him, just not actually, even doing utility damage. Some flashes, actually, but you'll see actually syrsoN only has the one enemy flash. Not as much of a support player, I'd say, on Vertigo, whereas on Inferno, sometimes there's not a lot, you can't post up on an angle for teammates. So, like, on Train, for example, on Dust 2, on Vertigo, and Overpass, there's these long angles that it's really beneficial for a T-side operator to just lock down to make sure that his scaling teammates cannot be pushed from those angles. On Inferno, not as much the case, which is why you'll see more of a supportive role from him. On Vertigo here, he does have to lock down those spots because so frequently CTs are going to peek at the top of ramp. They're going to peek on the left side MSL spot. They're going to peek from Ivy. They're going to peek from Heaven. They're going to peek so many different spots. So he has to just hold those down. And when he hits every shot, when he's just that perfect tripwire, it's very difficult to deal with it as a CT. It's hard to be proactive unless you're using really perfect utility all of the time. So now we'll bring up the stats once again, and you guys can see that he actually doesn't pop off in terms of first kills in this game by any means, but just overall has a very good game, and it allowed Big to do a great job at the Blast Premier Spring Groups. That's going to be it here. This is a little bit shorter because the game is shorter. That's really all there is to it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I am actually going to be traveling in the coming days, and I'm going to queue up a bunch of videos. Enjoy them, and be sure to like and subscribe and comment and all that, you know, help out. Yeah, okay, I don't know why I'm making this like that. As always though, being toxic is a choice.